লিঙ্ক করে দেই, তারপরে
স্যার শুরু করবো নাকি?
দাঁড়াও, এটাতে
আচ্ছা।
তোমাকে শেয়ার করতে হবে তো। এরকম হয় না, সবাই রেগুলার এসে যায়, কেন দেরি করছে জানি না। হ্যাঁ, নাও স্টার্ট করো।
Okay, sir. So thank you. Let me share my screen. All right. Is it visible?
It is coming.
Okay. So today we are going to discuss the next topic, which is ethnography research. All right. So what is this ethnography? When we are saying ethnography, it is basically it is defined as a systematic study of people and cultures. All right. So the chief aim of ethnographic research is to explore the cultural phenomena where the researcher observes society from the point of view of the subject of the study. It means what? We have to define the subject of the study first, and then we observe a particular cultural phenomena or a particular community, particular group of people, in order to find out to what extent the subject that we are willing to study, it is relevant in that particular context. So it is a means to represent graphically and in writing the culture of a group. Ethnography is a qualitative method which is very specific for cultural studies. Okay, because here we, as the researchers, we observe and or interact with the studies participants in their real life environment. We do not go to a lab space or ask questions or something like that. We employ methods like observation and interaction. Okay, it can also involve a way of interviewing people, participants, but it has to be done in the real life environment where they are actually practicing their own culture. All right. So several examples are there. For example, this Paul Willie's ethnographic study of working class youth culture. So this is a very famous ethnographic research. Learning to labor. Willis actually conducted a series of interviews and observations within a school with the aim of discovering how and why working class kids get working class jobs. He suggested that working class children tend to have counter school culture and oppositions to academics and authorities. This would lead them to workplaces with similar environment and working class dominance. Okay, so this has been a very famous ethnographic research. Another one by Kristen R. Gottsy. It is on post-communist Bulgaria. So in her work, Gottsy argued that many East European women would actually fare better than men in newly competitive labor markets because of the cultural capital that they had acquired before 1989. All right. So it was actually related to the political scenario that was there at that time. So there again, Kristen, she had employed ethnographic research methods in order to study this particular phenomena and come to inferences regarding that. Um, this is another ethnographic field work which was done in the indigenous tribal Amazonians by Napoleon. So in his study he used an evolutionary approach to understand social behavior in terms of genetic relatedness. So his work has had centered on the analysis of violence among tribal people, and using socio-biological analysis, he had advanced the argument that among the Yanomami violence is fueled by an evolutionary process in which successful warriors have more offspring. So it's a very specific pattern that he had observed through his ethnographic field work. So actually, several such type of famous ethnographic researches do exist. Even in today's world, it might seem weird that okay, I'm giving examples from the past only, but in fact, one of my seniors, he had conducted this ethnographic research with the Baul community of West Bengal. So he had actually stayed with them, observed them, interviewed them, studied their culture, okay, studied their religious practices in order to understand how this particular group of people, they worship their god, and what was the kind of lifestyle that they lead. Okay, so it was a wonderful study that he actually did through ethnographic methods. So he was one of my seniors. So yes, like it's a very although it may sound weird, but ethnographic research methods are actually quite common even today, and it is widely used in qualitative research. All right. So, what are the different key features of ethnographic studies? Well, it usually focus on very few cases, maybe just one, but in detail. So it has to be a very detailed analysis of that particular case or few cases that one is considering. Number two, it often involves working with previously unstudied phenomenon. All right, something that was not studied in the past. All right, so often ethnographic researches are done in this particular with this particular intention in research intention that a particular phenomena has not been studied so far, and that is why the researcher is willing to study it. It emphasizes on exploring social phenomena rather than testing of preset hypotheses. So this is more of an exploratory approach that is followed here. Okay, here the researcher actually doesn't really form any hypothesis. In general, in qualitative research, forming hypotheses are quite less, and generally we do not form such type of hypotheses beforehand. In ethnographic research it is even more even rarer phenomena that you will find that here we are exploring a social phenomena but no hypothesis at all, just an exploration of that particular phenomena that is considered. Okay, it focuses on describing the culture of a group in very detailed and complex manner. All right. So, how this particular cultural practices exist within the group that one is studying? Okay, in great details and in a very complex manner. So this senior of mine who had studied this Baul community, he was once telling us about his own research. So he had stayed with them for like months together, trying to understand their cultural practices. How. They would practice their and all the mantras that they would chant. Okay, what was the meaning of those different mantras? Okay, how would they imbibe all those religious practices in their own lifestyles? Okay, every single thing he had studied in great details and in a very complex manner. So That's the essence of the ethnographic research method. All right. It involves engaging in extensive field work where data collection is mainly by interviews, symbols, artifacts, observations, and many other sources of data. Okay, not just the interview and observation that we talked about, but it can also involve symbols, artifacts, and many other sources of data. So, for example, some particular text which is very, very unique to that particular community. Okay, so the researcher can even consider that particular text, interpret the writings within that particular text. Okay, in order to understand the cultural practices of that particular group, community, or cultural group, whatever you consider. All right. It is field based and is conducted in the settings in which real people actually live rather than in laboratories, and where the researcher controls the elements of the behaviors to be observed or measured. Okay, so it is chiefly field based. All right, it has to be field based where the entire research is done where the people actually live. So the researcher will go to that place, live with them, and then study them in, rather than bringing those participants in the lab and control all the conditions. That is not done. It's a holistic approach to the study of cultural systems. It's a process of discovery, making inferences, and continuing inquiries in an attempt to achieve maximum validity. All right. So maximum validity, in the sense validity is very much contextual. All right, validity of a particular work exists only in that particular context. So whatever inferences are made in this particular process, okay, and the inquiries that are done, is it is all done in order to achieve the maximum validity, meaning that the accuracy of information in that particular context. All right. It is an open-ended, emergent learning process and is highly flexible and creative process. Okay. Open-ended means what? No hypothesis, it's just an exploration. So the researcher basically explores how that particular phenomena is existing in that particular context. An exploration of the entire phenomena through and learning it in the process. Okay, it's highly flexible and it's creative. Why creative? Because it depends upon the researcher. The researcher himself or herself will decide which particular methods he or she is going to employ in order to do the ethnographic research there. All right. Acha, interpretive, reflexive, and constructivist process. Okay, so here we are concerned about the interpretation that we are receiving. It's a reflexive process as well. It depends upon a lot of reflections of the on the part of the researcher, and a constructivist process. So the researcher also learns as he or she explores through the different phenomena. Achha, it requires the daily and continuous recording of field notes. All right, field notes are extremely important in this case. Okay, since it's a field study that is done, field notes are also very important here. All right, tries to earn trust of the respondents. So if we consider the it is one of it's somewhat like the participant observation that we know. So the researcher actually participates in that particular phenomena that is studied. Okay, being a part of the religious process, the practices that are done, or the cultural practices that are done. So the researcher, in order to be one of the participant, has to actually earn the trust of the participants. Why will someone just invite you to their own world and tell you everything about themselves? It never happens. So this senior of mine, I was asking him, like, how did you gain their trust? So he told me that it was a very difficult process. Initially he would just go and sit, in the fair. So there is like bowl fair, okay, bowl mela, and all those things where a lot of bowl people from the different bowl communities would come, and they would just present their singing and all. So initially he used to go to such places in order to build rapport, okay, a network with these people coming from the Baul community. All right, then once this rapport was established, then he got invited to their own places, that is called akhra. So he would go there, and then he would interact with them, and slowly and gradually he earned their respect, okay, their trust, that all right, he is welcome here, he is not harmful, he is going to do some exploration, and that's it. So it took him a lot of time, like months together, to build this trust, okay, to earn the trust of these participants. And once it was done, then it got very easy. Then he would just go there and stay with them for days together in order to understand their way of life. So a lot actually depends on the researcher in this case, okay. So when do we use ethnography? First, while searching the meanings of cultural, practices and views, in trying to understand the reasons for the use of certain behavior or practices, why something is done. Okay, specifically in the context of a particular cultural group. Okay, why something is done. Why a particular cultural practice is in use. Okay, in order to understand those things, we do ethnographic research. For examining social trends and instances like divorce, illness, migration. Okay, there is another this famous work by one of our professors where she had explored, that the migration that happened during 1971, people who came from Bangladesh and who settled here. Okay, so the refugees who came here, and what kind of resilience, how they built the resilience, and how what kind of mental health issues were involved in this type of migration, where someone is leaving his or her own home and everything else, and just moving on to a complete new different place. All right. So this was also an ethnographic research where she had interviewed and tried to understand this particular social trend like migration. Okay. So that is one reason where we do ethnographic research for examining social interactions and encounters. Okay, how people interact among themselves. Okay, what are the different ways, in which people encounter each other. For example, one researcher might be interested to understand how people interact among each other in social media, like Instagram or Facebook, okay, or Twitter or some other particular social media platform. Okay, how this interaction takes place. Okay, how people interact among each other. Why people troll other people in social media. So for understanding that, a person might be doing ethnographic research. That is possible. Okay, to understand the roles of families and organization and their behavior, to identify new patterns and gain new insights into social phenomenon. Okay, so the new patterns that are evolving. For example, one researcher might be interested to understand that, okay, how children are adapting to this no playground world that is here today. So in our own childhood, we used to play in the playgrounds only. There was no like internet or mobile phones and all those things. Viewing TV was also very much restricted. So other than studies, we would just go to the playgrounds and would play there for the rest of the time. That was how it was. All right, and we had like lots of friends, and we used to, play together in the evening and all. So in today's world, it has changed to a, complete. It has become a complete different world now. So children, they do not get to play in the playgrounds. Okay, they play in their, mobile phones and tabs. Okay, so everything is virtual. All right. And children as young as 5 years, 6 years old, they have like social media profiles, and they are looking into those things, in doing interactions virtually. So everything has got changed. So one researcher might be interested to understand how this type of a pattern, this is also some particular pattern that has evolved, over the years, a social phenomena basically. So how it has evolved, how it has changed over time. All right. Acha. To understand the hygiene and sanitation practices of communities. All right. To observe the types of punishment given to children at school, to study the behavior of workers in an organization. So you have to first specify which particular behavior you would like to study for a particular group of people, not people in general, but to a specific group of people. Once it is specified, then you can go for an ethnographic research. All right, is it clear to everyone? Any question
Yes,
at this
ma'am.
point?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, different versions of ethnographic research. There can be critical ethnographies, feminist ethnographies, autoethnography, virtual ethnography. Okay, what are these critical ethnographies? Critical ethnography is a qualitative approach to research that explicitly sets out to critique hegemony, oppression, asymmetrical power relations in order to foster social change. Okay, so the basic idea here is that this type of ethnographic research, is aimed at understanding and exploring the social hegemony, the political hegemony that exists, the oppression types of oppressions that exist. Okay, then the asymmetry in power distribution. Okay, and the basic idea is to foster social change, to bring about a social change. All right, so someone might be interested to study how the attitude towards women has evolved over the past few decades. Okay, how it has changed. So for example, a few days back I was in a lecture, and one of the participant who was there was asking me that, ma'am, can you tell us, discuss something on this, why the frequency of divorces has increased these days. Okay, why that has increased to a large extent. Okay, so one particular researcher might be interested to study that how this the role of a woman in the family, how it has evolved over time. All right, now it is true that yeah, the rate of divorce has increased to a great extent. All right, so that is also a social phenomena, isn't it? It is also a social phenomena, it has evolved. Earlier in our previous generation, the rate of divorce was quite low. All right, people would just somehow they would stay together. All right, so like a lot of problems are there and everything, but still okay, they would like manage and they would stay together. In today's world, people are not willing to stay together, they're not willing to manage, they're not willing to adjust. Why this has evolved, how this has evolved. All right, so whether it is related to oppression or some other particular type of issues are there. All right, so that is the critical ethnography. Acha. Feminist ethnography places emphasis on gendered aspects of social life and the influence of gender on power and resource distribution. Okay, so for example, one a researcher might be interested to study what is a female representation of leadership in today's world. How many female leaders are there? Okay, and what is the percentage? So now, what happens is that in today's world, because social everything is like, there, that is what we call the hyper connectivity. So a person is connected to so many different sources of information all together at the same time. Okay, you go to the internet, you will be you're connected through Facebook, and then you will get notifications from YouTube, you will get notifications from Instagram, and all these are connected among each other. All right, so it is what we call the hyper connectivity. Now, in a world of hyper connectivity, if someone is interested to understand that what is the percentage of female leadership, all right, you will find that still it is very low. All right, so I think 2, 3 years back, on this International Women's Day, the UNESCO had specifically defined the theme as breaking the glass ceiling. That was the theme that year. So what does it mean? That women as leaders need to emerge. Okay, so you are seeing that, okay, I can go ahead, I can be a leader, but there is always this glass ceiling that is there. Okay, and it is not letting you to be the one, whatever you want to be. All right, so breaking the glass ceiling, how it can it can happen actually in our country or in today's world. So a researcher might be interested to understand something like that. Okay, because it has got a lot to a lot of things that are related to our social lives, our power and resource distribution, all those things. So that is a feminist ethnography. Acha. Autoethnography. So, according to Adams et al., it refers to an approach where the researcher's personal and reflective perspective is part of the analysis. All right. So, a researcher might be interested in studying a particular social phenomena, but there the researcher's own perspectives, personal as well as reflective. Perspective means something that this perspective has evolved from the insights that the researcher has gained from reflecting on different other sources of informations. Okay, so those things are included as part of the analysis. That is called an autoethnography. And finally, the virtual ethnography. Virtual ethnography rests on the argument that the ethnographer should experience the social life of the research subjects, regardless of how those experiences are mediated. Okay, so here in this case, the ethnographer should experience. Okay, so there has to be this first-hand experience of the researcher, of the ethnographer, experience of what? The social life of the research subjects. All right. So all these are the different versions of ethnography research. Now, coming to the major steps that are involved in ethnography. What are these steps? First, choosing the field site. All right. It is very important that how you are choosing a particular field site. Okay. Why? Because if there is a some error, or the researcher chooses a particular research site where it may not be very much relevant, then the information that the person will be gaining may be flawed. All right, so that's why choosing the field site is the first step, and it is an extremely important step that needs to be followed. All right. Second, doing the field work. All right, and this field work means going to visiting those places. Okay, interacting with the research participants in order to understand a particular phenomena, and then taking field notes and all those things will come under this field work. Participant observation means the researcher actually becomes one of the participants in this case and observes that particular event as being part of that same group. So the researcher also participates in the same phenomena that he or she is studying and makes the observation there. Acha, ethnographic interviews. So this also includes interviewing the research participants with respect to different issues that are there, pertinent issues. Okay, so these interviews actually helps the ethnographic researcher to make sense of why and how a particular cultural practice is done. All right. Then cite documents. So it not only will include observation and interviews, but will also include studying the different documents that are part of that particular, cultural practice that is being studied. Field notes, taking field notes. Field notes, includes making short notes about the particular observation that the researcher is getting there. Yeah. Then analyzing and interpreting ethnographic data. Okay, so analyzing and interpreting. Interpretation will be multifaceted. Why? Because you are actually employing lots of different techniques together. So you are using interviews, you are using observation method, you are considering different documents that are there. Okay, so all these different techniques are being employed, and of course, each of these techniques will be it requires different ways of interpretation, analyzing and interpretation of those data sources. For example, if you are conducting an interview, you will have to transcribe the information first and then analyze it using different methods that are there, and then arrive at certain conclusions. Again, if you are making observation, then you will have to consider the field notes that you are taking, and then qualitatively analyzing the findings from this observation that you are doing. All right, so different techniques will have their own ways of analysis and interpretation. So you have to consider all these while analyzing and interpreting the ethnographic data. And finally, writing and evaluation of ethnographic research. So you have to report. Okay, you have to provide the writing of, that will tell you that how and why a particular behavior is existing. And evaluation is also very important. Once you have written the report, okay, and you have published it or submitted it or something like that, after a particular time period, it has to be evaluated again. Okay, that what type of work did you you actually did when you had conducted the ethnographic research. Okay, whether it is giving us information, proper information or not, whether it is helping us in implementing some particular intervention or something like that. So there has to be some outcome. Okay, and the outcome is also evaluated in order to maintain this the quality of the research that is done in this case. Okay. Okay, so choosing the field site. Here, a guiding research question is appropriate to that specific site is generated. It is also possible, however, to start a theoretically derived research question about a certain cultural process and to find a site where that question might be appropriate. Once a potential field site has been selected, the researcher needs to negotiate access. This involves getting permission from the people on the site to visit the site for research purposes during a certain period of time. So one of my friends, he was actually planning for conducting a research together. So he wants to study the health of some tribal pregnant women, and also the children that are born in that particular tribe. So I was asking him that, okay, where are you planning to conduct the research? So he told me that, okay, I am going to conduct the research in this districts of West Bengal, because there I will find this particular group of people that I'm looking for the most. Okay, so he's see the research, the site, the field site that he has decided. It is actually dependent upon the research participants who are going to be your research participant, and whether you can have access to this particular group of people in that particular research site that you are considering. You say that, okay, I want to do this research on this particular community, and you go to a place where people belonging to this particular community is very less, then it will be of no use. So that's why the field site selection is extremely important. And once it is done, then you go for negotiating the access, whether you are going to get the entry, okay, whether you can earn their trust, and then be one of the participant observer. So those things actually comes later, after the field site is selected. Okay, then comes the field work. Field work includes all activities that you need to carry out in order to collect your data. Okay. And overall, it's a personal experience, because all researchers are different and have varying interests and skills. So remember that we discussed it's a very creative process. This ethnographic research is a very creative process. Why? Because it depends upon the researcher, whether the researcher is going to follow the conventional methods only, and mechanically conduct the work, or whether the researcher is truly interested in studying that particular phenomena, and is employing all sorts of different methods in order to understand the phenomena itself. Okay, so it's a very personal experience, that's why. All right, so I was telling you about this particular senior of mine who studied the Baul community. He actually spent 2 to 3 years of his own life studying this particular community. So of course it's a personal experience. It cannot be done mechanically in one's own way, because he's interpreting all those observation and interviews that he had done there, with with all of his subjectivity. All right, so that's why it's a very personal experience for all researchers who would conduct an ethnographic field work. So what are the guidelines that one can follow here? Collect a variety of information from different perspectives and different sources. If you are planning to do an ethnographic research, make sure that you have access to different sources of information, not just observing and interviewing this group of people, but it also would include, considering the documents that are relevant in this case. Also, are trying to understand the sequence of events that had occurred previously. So all those things needs to be included. More you consider the different sources of information, better it is. You will get a lot of different diverse information there. Okay. Use observation, open interviews, and site documentation, as well as audio visual materials such as recordings and photographs. Okay, all those must also be included. It should not be just limited to the interviews and the observation method, but also studying all those other types of materials, recordings, photographs, etc. It's also very important. Write field notes that are descriptive and rich in detail. Okay, it might take you some time, but if you are conducting an ethnographic research, it is extremely important that you make notes. Okay, because you are trying to understand that particular social phenomenon, you cannot just remember every single little thing that the participant is going to tell you. All right. So that's why it is important that you consider field notes. All right. Represent participants in their own terms by using quotations and short stories. Okay, so that can also be done. That the participants they can they can be provided with using different quotations and short stories in order to describe the phenomena that is at hand. All right, it captures participants' views of their own experiences in their own worlds. So that is also important in ethnographic research. This is what actually we study. That is the participants' view of their own experiences in their own worlds, how they are describing their own experiences, how they are describing their own living. That is very important in this case. Okay. Participant observation, I already mentioned, it's one of the central data collection method in ethnographic research. Okay, so it means what? It has to be like a very general practice in this case. Okay, so at one end, the researcher makes shorter visits to the site. At the other end, the researcher shares the everyday life and activities of the people in the chosen setting. All right. So this participant observation that is there actually provides the researcher with an opportunity to develop the insider's view. Okay. So for example, what is this insider view? That the kind of perspectives that you will gain while being inside the community itself. Okay. Acha, experiencing a site from the inside is what necessitates the participant part of observation. Simultaneously, however, there is always an observer side to this process, and the challenge is to combine participant participation and observation in a way that enables understanding of the site as an insider while describing it to the outsider. This is where we would require the expertise. Why? In most cases, you will find that researchers they get involved because it's a participant observation. They get involved in the process, in the cultural practices, and after a point of time, it becomes very difficult for him or her to get uninvolved or to come out of those practices. All right. So the challenge is to combine this participation and the observation. Okay, you so that you can become one of the participants, yet you are actually observing the particular social phenomena as it is. All right. So if you are able to do this, then you will gain very rich information. If not, then it's actually of no use. Okay, it becomes a futile process itself. Ethnographic interviews, these are mostly open-ended narrative or life history interviews. And here, what happens is that people are interviewed. Which people? Which type of people? People who can actually help the researcher understand the setting or group they are researching. All right. It can also be useful to interview a variety of people at various points of an ethnographic research. Okay. Why this variety of people? Because if you consider more variety, you will get, a variety of information as well. Okay, if I'm willing to conduct a research with a particular group of tribal community. Okay, so if I consider only the one particular research site, uh, that will not be okay. That will not be done in that case. The inferences that I'll be drawing will become therefore flawed. Okay, so that's why it is important that whenever we are conducting this type of a research here, the particular setting or the group that one is researching, that is of prime importance here. And that's why you need to consider a variety of people at various points in order to get rich information. Acha. While participant observation gives information on action and behavior, interviews provide a chance to learn how people directly reflect on their own behavior, circumstances, identities, and events. So, through observation method, you gain information about the action and behavior of people. While through the interview that you are doing, you get to understand how people directly reflect on their own behavior. Okay, because they will be telling you a lot of things. Okay, so you will get a lot of insights from such type of interviews. Okay, what kind of circumstances influence their behavior, okay, their identities, and all those events that influence their identities and their behavior, everything. Interviews can be taped with the participants' consent. So you can record the interviews if you get proper permission there. Okay. Site documents will include advertisements, work descriptions, annual reports, memos, correspondence, brochures, newsletters, websites, minutes of meetings, menus, and many other kind of written items. These are the site documents. Site documents on a particular event that is there. Okay. For example, you as a researcher, you are willing to study maybe how an organization actually functions, within its own parameter. Okay, so how the organization functions. So if you are willing to do this, you will have to consider all these different types of site documents. That will include all the MOMs, the different menus, and other type of notices. Okay, the newsletters, websites, if any. Okay, all those things you will have to study on your own in order to understand the phenomena itself, why something is happening there. Acha. Side documents are helpful in placing the participants of the study in a wider context. Researcher can also learn about what kinds of demands are placed upon the people in the site or what kind of privileges they have. Okay. Site documents provide demographic information and documentation of historical events as well. Okay, so once if you can go through the different site documents that are there, you will find that this actually provides us with a lot of information about different historical events that are there. All right, how it is connected to different other different communities, and how it influences the people, the respondents whom you are studying. All those things actually are related to the site documents. Okay. Field notes, it should be written either during the stay in the field or as soon as possible after leaving the field site. Even though a researcher may not think so when observing, one is most likely to forget relevant details unless writing them down immediately. Hmm. It actually is very true that once you are making some observations, suppose, and you are not taking field notes, at a later stage you would somehow you would remember, and you would like okay, these are some of the details that are there, but there's a fair chance that you would be missing out on lots of other very very relevant information, because you forgot to make certain kinds of field notes. Okay, so that's why it is very important. um, Writing down field notes takes time. This is why the researcher should make a plan about how to do this. How are you going to record the information? Okay, so one thing is that enough time should be reserved for writing down field notes every time the researcher will leave the research site. So the researcher might decide to write down whatever his or her observation were right after having you know the interaction with the respondents. Okay, so that will actually help the researcher to retain all those information and use the same set of information to make certain inferences, or coming to or to come to some particular conclusion about that particular social phenomena that is being studied here. Okay, there are four main parts of the field notes. First, jottings are brief words or phrases written down at the field site, usually recorded in a small notebook. Jottings are intended to help you remember things that you want to include when you write the more complete notes. So, you yourself as a researcher, you may decide that which part of the information that you have received is very very important, and it will contribute to whatever findings will be reported at a later stage. So if that is there, it is very important that you jot down the exact phrases or exact words that were used by the different participants there. Second, description means writing down everything you can remember about a specific event. For example, a board meeting, a training session, a one to one conversation at lunch, all these. Okay, this requires some form of description. So, description is therefore important there. Third, analysis is about, sorry, excuse me. Analysis is about what you learned in the setting, about your research question, and other related points. Are there any themes or patterns that you can identify that would help in answering your research question? How can you focus your observation on the next visit? So, all these needs to be addressed while you are actually visiting that particular site. Okay, what kind of difficulties you are facing, what kind of challenges you are facing there. Okay, is there any specific pattern or theme that you are able to identify there from the information that you got? Okay, how will you focus the observation in the next session? So all these planning has to be done in this case, and field notes actually help us get this done in a much more what should I say, in a much more systematic manner, basically. Fourth, reflection is about what you have thought, felt, and learned when making observations. What was it like to conduct your research? Did you feel comfortable being at the site? Okay, these are all very important questions that needs to be answered before commencing on this particular type of method there. Okay, so that reflection has to be there. That whether something that is happening, it is common to everyone, or it's something that is very specific. Okay, something that is very unique. That is what the reflection is about. Acha. Any question at this point?
No, ma'am.
All right. Next comes analyzing and interpreting ethnographic data. Okay. Actually, what happens in ethnographic research is that people, as researcher, you will have to continuously analyze the kind of information that you are getting, even when you are actually conducting that particular research. So as I told you that there is no hypothesis for this type of research, you just you are just exploring that particular phenomena. So that is why the researcher might require to analyze the information that you are getting in a continuous manner. Okay, interpret those information and also learn from the empirical data. Empirical data means quantitative data. In this respect, analysis involves both creative insight and careful attention to the purpose of your study. Okay, so it means creative insight. Creative insight means when you are going through the entire, all the different sources of information that are there, you finally come to finally, basically, you gain insight about, that particular phenomena that is there. Okay, once you gain this insight, then it becomes, quite easy to come to a conclusion about it. Becoming familiar with the empirical data helps you to understand them. After some rounds of reading, start to make notes on the text you are reading and pay attention to traces of patterns, connections, similarities, or constructive points. Okay, all these are the different techniques that that will give you a lot of different information. All right. So once you are analyze, so when you are actually analyzing the data, you have to make sure that you are reading or going through those different information over and over again. Okay, and to make notes about it. Okay, what type of insight you are gaining from reading and rereading all these different texts that are there. Okay, then write analytical memos of these. All right, so you have to specifically describe the or analyze okay, these particular aspects of the social phenomena that you have studied. Reduction of data is often the second step of the analysis. Okay, how you can reduce the information if there is that is what we call the saturation. Once you uh, reach that particular point. Okay, what is this saturation? Saturation is when you are interviewing, suppose you are interviewing and observing 10 different people. After a while you will find that there is really not something new in that particular behavior. How are you going to present this information in your work? All right, so therefore in such cases you need to reduce the data. Okay, how you can just simply club all these different questions that are relevant in this case, and then analyze the data as a whole. Okay, so these are the different steps that are that needs to be remembered while analyzing and interpreting ethnographic data. Finally, writing an evaluation. It involves, this ethnographic research involves both the processes of accomplishing the research and the research report itself, which is often written in the form of prose rather than in the form of a more traditional academic research report. Okay, why? Because you have to give evidences, you have to provide evidences. Once you are reporting the different findings of the interview, while reporting all those things, you have to specifically mention what the participant actually told you. Okay, what are the very specific descriptions that were given to you, and then combine those in the form of a story. You have to bring about the story that is that lies there, that gives you a description of the social phenomena that you are studying there. Okay, so that's why it is this type of writing is quite different from the traditional academic research report that we do. Ethnographic writing includes a lot of detailed description presented in narrative form. So you have to narrate the entire phenomena. Okay. The purpose of description is to let the reader know what happened in the field, what it was like from the participant's point of view to be there, and what particular events or activities were interesting and worth exploring further. All these needs to be included in the report. A detailed description and quotations are essential qualities of ethnographic accounts. Extensive description needs to be balanced by analysis and interpretation. So it should not be like the entire report is is comprised of the description of the events that happened there. No, you have to balance it actually. Okay, with the analysis report and the interpretation part. An interesting and readable ethnographic research report provides sufficient description to allow the reader to understand the analysis, and sufficient analysis to allow the reader to understand the interpretation and explanation presented. Okay, so it's a stepwise process. First, you provide the description, then this description must be done in such a way that the readers are able to understand the analysis, why you have done something, how you have analyzed the data. All these things comes after the description part. And once you have sufficiently analyzed the information that you have that you collected, then all these analysis must be facilitating the understanding of the interpretation and the explanation presented. So your interpretation of the results will be dependent upon the level of analysis that you have done. Okay, so these are the different aspects of writing and evaluation of ethnographic research. So any questions regarding the process, the steps that needs to be done in this case, or in general, if you have some other observation or anything that you would like to ask? Yes, any question?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
All right. So I think our time is also up. So if there are no further questions, then I think we can wrap it up for today. Sir, over to you. Are you there? Ashmita, Farha, anyone?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, एक minute. I'll just call sir.
Okay, sure.
আজকে তবে এখানে শেষ করি।
হ্যাঁ স্যার, যদি আর কোনো কোয়েশ্চেন বা কিছু না থাকে দেন উই ক্যান।
হুম, কারো মনে কোনো প্রশ্ন আছে কি?
No, sir.
ঠিক আছে, ওকে, থ্যাংক ইউ।
Okay, thank you everyone for your patient listening.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Shmita, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you everyone. Thank you, sir.